Hey, thanks for being here. This is Ramon Ray with the Rundown with Ramon. My name is Ramon Ray. You can get to know me better at RamonRay.com, ourzoneofgenius.com, or celebrityco.com. Today, we're going to talk about money, finances, and I suspect a bit more because based on my limited 50 years of experience being on this earth, money and mindset are intrinsically tied together. So, Tremaine Wills, I'm so glad you're with us today. I hope you and who's important to you are blessed, and I hope you're doing fantastic on this beautiful day. How are you, Tremaine? Welcome.
I am doing amazing. Ramon, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be so exciting. I cannot wait to dive into this conversation.
You're welcome. I'm excited too because hey, talking about money, what I'm saying? It's a good thing. So Tremaine, right at the top, tell us how to reach you, who you serve, and tell us about your business today, and then we'll start to go backwards. But right now, right from the top, tell the Rundown with Remote audience who you are, what your website is, links, who you serve, why they should connect with you right now. Then we'll dive and go backwards. Talk to us.
Yeah, so my name is Tremaine Wills. I'm on every single social media platform at Tremaine Wills. You can find my website is www.mindovermoney.net. I am on a mission to help 1 million women grow their invested assets to $1 million or more. So if you are a woman who wants to retire sooner than later, come follow me.
I love that. Let's dive right into it. A few key words. One, as I guess probably I said it was in my mind already. Money over what is again? Mind over money.
Yep.
Clearly, I'm tracking. Money and mind are together. But talk about that. Their invested assets, $1 million or more. Right now, just start to explain what does that part of the phrase mean. I have an idea what it means, but for our audience, what does that mean?
Yeah. So a lot of times we hear folks want to be a millionaire, or we hear people want to have like 1 million in revenue if you're a business owner. But we all know it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And so keeping it and growing it inside of that investment account will ensure that you not only just hit $1 million, but that $1 million will continue to work for you and continue to accumulate. And so that's why we are intentional about not just saying helping people become millionaires, but having it in that investment account so that it's going to keep working harder for you.
I love it. Another thing that comes to mind talking about what you said as you opened with are how men and women think, work on, do. Feel free to always edit my questions, by the way. Work on money. Is it different? Because you said you want to help women have their, and say that keyword, their investable assets, $1 million or more. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yep.
Investable assets, $1 million or more. Unpack that, men and women. How are we different or similar in regards to money based on your experience?
Yeah. So from the women I've been working with, especially women who are married and their husbands are the breadwinners or
Sure.
take care of the finances,
That's my house.
they are not as astute
Sure.
about how money works.
Sure.
And so I want to make sure that women are empowered and feel confident not only having money conversations, but are prepared in the event that their partner is no longer there, right? Or even if women are single, that they don't have to wait until they have a partner to become confident around building wealth.
Sure. I love that. And I must say, can I confess something to you? Is that okay? Can I confess just
Yeah.
between you and me? Yeah. Even in my own house, we are that kind of household. We've chose to be that kind of household. My wife homeschooled our children. We're a single income family. And I said once, want to create wealth and generational wealth. And I'm sure we're going to unpack some things, maybe even racially, as it were, ethnically. But she's like, what,
Mhm.
generational wealth? Like a lot of money? So we had a conversation. I said, yeah, one day, if I can't work or if I just don't want to work, I'm sure you can answer this better than I'm asking it. But we had that conversation. I had to educate my wife even on something I didn't know that well, but
Mm.
because I'm making the money and touching it, it's given me a bit more ahead of her. Great woman, but meaning just that's how it was because I'm touching it a little more. But we had that. Am I on the right track? A little bit of things you're encountering, or is that not quite?
Yeah. It's of course that educational piece, right? Around what generational wealth is, especially now since it's such a buzzword,
Yeah.
everybody's kind of throwing it around. But what does that mean? And not only what does it mean, what does it look like
Mm.
for your household and how you define being able to pass money to the next generation? What types of account structures do you need? How much is going to be moving in what types of accounts? And is there going to be any information education that goes with it? Because I think sometimes we know we want to send the money, but we don't think about how do we also send the information so that the money also remains and grows.
I love that. So I want to get into your story and how you got to where you are today, but I want to save that a bit because I want to keep this conversation going for your wisdom. Um, Why don't you walk me through? You're on a stage right now. You have 10,000 women in front of you, and you got whatever time you need, which you don't, but whatever time you need, just to give us a high level view of what you talk about to your clients you work with. What are some of the things you say, Ramon? Have a seat. Have a seat. Let me just walk you through at a high level some common basic things that many, if I'm asking right, many people, many women are not doing. Can you do that for us? Just
Yeah.
start us right at the top. Take it. Take your time. Go for it.
Yeah. So if I had to do like high level, I'd probably take us through my framework, which is the
Okay.
RICH roadmap, right? And RICH is the acronym. The R stands for reimagine, right? It's having us shift what we see right now to where we want to go into the future. So many of us are operating in the day to day, kind of just going through the motions with our money that we have never thought about one, retirement, and what is the future life we want to create. And so when we think about reimagining that future, the money conversation comes in because it's the vehicle to bring that to life, right? It's not so much I want to be a millionaire or I want to have $100,000 or whatever the dollar amount is what is the life that I'm trying to create and how much money is required to create it. So I have my clients and anybody who's listening start here because we can't go where we can't see. And so you have to see it before you can see it in real life and create that vision. So that's always the first step is I need you to see past where you are right now to where you want to go into the future. And then we start to build that thing instead of where we are in the present moment. So that's
That
what
is
this R
powerful.
is.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So that's the R, reimagine. And then the next thing is to identify the priorities, right? So we've done our vision casting. We know, what are the things that we want to build in the future. Now I have to identify, well, what is most important? Because society will tell us particular milestones you're supposed to hit by 40 or particular milestones in your investment account and all these different things. But what if none of that is important to you, right? What if your priorities are making sure that you can pay for private school education for your children or making sure that you can retire a parent, right? That might put a different type of drain on your finances, but because it was a priority for you, it doesn't matter. So when we can have the honest conversation with ourselves and kind of get rid of what society says we should be doing and connect with the priorities that we care most about, we can start to craft our plan in a way that is most in alignment with what we value. And then it starts to stick, right? A lot of us are experiencing failure with our finances because we're creating budgets and strategies around what everybody else says we should be doing versus what really matters to us.
Are you looking at my office?
I'm
Wait a
not.
minute. Whoa. Continue. Go ahead.
I'm not. But yeah, so that's the I. Identify your priorities.
Love it.
Then we get to the C. This is where everybody wants to jump to. The C means create the plan, right? Now you have the vision of where you want to go. You know what's important to you. Now I can start to do all the things. I can set up the accounts that are in alignment with the goals and the vision that I have. I can identify like what are the targets that I need to hit? What are the buckets I need to drop the things in, right? This is the widgets and like all of the pieces. That happens when you create the plan. We usually mess up because we're trying to create a plan before we have a vision. And now I have these buckets and widgets that have no real heart, no real passion. And then they never really get fulfilled because there's no real meat kind of pulling it all together. So that's the C, create the plan. And then the last piece is to honor it, right? Honor the commitment that you made, the reason why you're going through all of this. What is that deep, compelling reason to stick with it, right? If you don't stay with this, who in the next generation has to start over from zero, right? How are the stakeholders, the people you care about, how is everybody impacted if you don't commit to this, right? Do you never get to realize that vision that you saw? Because that's usually what happens to a lot of us. Life gets hard, right? Life be lifing.
That's right.
And sometimes that big vision that we had, it doesn't get to materialize because we don't honor that commitment that we put forth. So that's the big overarching thing, right? Reimagine what your future could be, identify what those priorities are, create the plan, and then honor the commitment you made to yourself.
I love it. Let's play this game right now with Tremaine Wills. Tremaine Wills. One more time, remind us how to reach you, who you do. I'm gonna ask this a few times. It may not, but it may sound annoying to you. But I do this, Tremaine, as one who's on many podcasts and does a lot of things like this. People forget, they got to go reverse, they got to go back. What you say? We don't need to do that. See, not right now, you're hearing how you can identify and how you can work with Tremaine. Tremaine, one more time, tell us how to reach you and who you are.
Yeah. I guess my name is Tremaine Wills. You can find me at Tremaine Wills on all social media platforms. My website is www.mindovermoney.net, where we are on a mission to help 1 million women grow their invested assets to $1 million or more. So if you're an ambitious woman that wants to come on this journey, you can find me there.
I love it. I'm gonna get a little political with you because I think these are two separate scenarios.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. I'm Jenny, and I'm a stay-at-home mom, maybe. Working with a loving husband. I want to get all these scenarios of loving families because, if they're not, that's a whole nother thing. I already know that. But, working, loving family. But my husband does take care of the finances. Loving guy, got what I need, takes care of it. What's that scenario, Tremaine, versus I'm Jenny? I work independently, meaning I have a great job outside the home, and or even I'm single. Can you just help me? Because I have another question I asked, but help me paint again, how those scenarios may differ or not, or it's the same conversation. What do you do if it's Jenny who's married and single earner and she's home with three little toddlers versus Jenny who is an independent professional, or do you only work with one of the two? And I know I asked you 47 different questions. That's just how I roll. So please.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the only difference is Jenny who is married, I would ask Jenny to invite her husband to the conversation.
Okay.
So I do work with married couples. However, I prefer that women are the lead in establishing the relationship, right? Because part of our mission is to make sure women are empowered and that they understand how the money works. So how the money is made in the household doesn't matter as long as the woman is a part of the conversation and understanding how it's going to be managed.
Love it. So it could be in the same way. Again, ladies, calm down here. I'm saying how my home is. I clean, I dust, I vacuum, I take the trash out. But I'm going to tell you, ladies, in my house, Ramon's just not going to cook. I just won't do it. Chinese food is right on the block. So my house, my lady cooks. What I'm getting to is it in the same way of saying in this scenario, based on what you're saying, lady, dear miss, the lady in the home who's married, then I'll get to the other one in a minute. That means you and your husband have agreed you're going to sit with Tremaine and start to educate yourself so you can move money around together as a couple, but you're the one who's going to be hitting buttons and whatever as it gets detailed. Am I saying that kind of right? Meaning he may not be or what you'll be doing it together, but you won't be not knowing how to do it. Maybe that's the way to say it. Is that a fair statement, or would you say it a different way?
It depends, right?
Okay.
You know how we love that phrase, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, I don't dictate how money is run in a household, right?
Okay.
Because sometimes you have a system and the system is great, right? The husband may manage everything, but the wife should know.
Got it.
Right. And so that's where the conversation comes in where, if something happens to my husband, I have no idea how to keep everything going. Yeah. And that's what we want to avoid, because oftentimes women are living longer than their husbands. Mm-hmm. And what we don't want to happen is financial stress and additional overwhelm on top of a loss, right? When these things could be avoided just by knowing how everything moves. So, however everything is run is totally up to the couple or the individual, but the focus here is understanding and having the knowledge to be able to do it if it had to be done.
I love it. So I'm just want to repeat what I'm hearing, because even my mind is open to a new way for the couples listening. Again, I know singles, it's a whole different scenario. It's just you, as it were. But I just want to repeat, because I think it's interesting that you're saying, even if, since you said you focus on women, that your mission is fulfilled, great. You have agreed and you love it. Your husband does all the money stuff, but Tremaine will win her mission. I just want you to know it. I'm gonna quiz you or ask you, what is a 401k? And you better know what it is, or whatever the thing is. Am I hearing you right? You're just saying even the knowledge, the buttons don't matter. You can teach that, but you just want women to be literate of it. Is that?
That is accurate. That is accurate. So many women just have no idea. And it's awesome to not have to bear the responsibility of knowing, right? Because if you're being taken care of, that's amazing.
Sure.
But we just know as we get up in age, it's possible that you could be the one outliving your husband.
I love it. Absolutely. Can I just also say a message to the men hearing this? Men hearing this, and Tremaine, feel free to edit what I'm saying. I respect that you have your point of view, but I think you'll agree on this. Men, you should take advantage of this. If you're in that home and you're a loving, loving couple, all that's covered, please, for sure. But traditionally, your grandmama, your granddaddy, generationally, the male may have done it, whatever it may be. That's up to y'all, Tremaine saying, but educate the lady in your life. And ladies, you should want to be educated. So I think that a fair statement. I just want to encourage and say that both of y'all get educated. And ladies, if you're not educated, as in my own home, loving, great wife, but I'm trying to push her a bit, get this education. Is that something we agree on, Tremaine?
Yeah, definitely agree. Because also too, like, and I don't mean to get biblical here, but women are multipliers.
Sure.
And so if you are in a phenomenal relationship where money is being made, and now you can further enhance understanding and say, hey, this might be an additional thing to look at. That could be a way for more money to come into the household, right? So I think it's just empowering to know how money works, to really have an understanding, to be able to maybe even contribute.
Yeah. Our mutual friend, Tremaine Lamar, talks about money and things you probably know already with him, and things that were relatively new for me. There's new pools of even money and opportunities and ways to go, and et cetera. Can you unpack what he's been teaching us, if you get what I mean? There's, those, God bless you, you're working at Walmart, working at Target, making 30,000 a year, whatever it is, or whatever the number is, wherever you're working, but you get the spirit, I'm saying it, and you're saving your money, grinding away. There's a whole nother level when you're building wealth, whatever the number may be. Can you just summarize what he was trying to open our eyes to, this wealth? I do call it a game. It's those who know it or not. Can you help me unpack that, please?
Yeah. So there's lots of different buckets, right?
Sure.
But I'll give an overview, right? So for many of us, we know that if we work hard and we have extra money, we put into our savings account. And our savings account might accrue, a couple percent interest every year. But the real way to build wealth is to invest. And that can typically happen when you are leveraging pooled assets like a ETF, which is a exchange traded fund, or a mutual fund, where these are buckets of money where you don't have to be an expert at an individual stock or an individual company, but just setting money aside and investing in good companies over time will appreciate in value. And now you have more money than if you would have just left it in a savings account, right? So there's lots of different ways to get involved into some of these things, but it makes it easier for individuals who may be afraid to like bet all their eggs on Amazon or bet all their eggs on, Tesla. Where if you just decide, well, there's a bucket of really good companies, I'm gonna put my money here and make a return and profit off of the work they're doing.
I love it. I love it. Okay, let's go back to the journey. I'd like to unpack what got you here today. And I don't know. So help us understand, give us some of the milestones. If you want to talk a little bit about how you grew up, childhood, all that, that'd be great. And then jump a little bit just to what got you to today. Where were you and what brought you here? I'd love to hear some of that story, all the story, depending on what you share with us.
How much time we got, Ramon?
We got 4 hours and 39 minutes.
So to kind of take it back to the beginning,
please.
I did not grow up wealthy. And I think a lot of that was the motivating force for me to become an educator, not only just a financial professional, but to teach people how it's done, especially people who look like me. And when I got started on this journey, I was very, very insecure about not coming from wealth, because a lot of my peers, they did, or they were either surrounded by wealth and their story was not mine, right? So I know what food stamps are. I know what government cheese tastes like, right? And so I think there's this level of understanding when there is shame or fear attached to meeting with an advisor, because sometimes you think, I was supposed to know that and I don't know it, and now I'm insecure. And usually I'm able to break down those barriers when I say, hey, I'm not that kind of person. I probably have made more mistakes with my finances than you have made, and I'm going to tell you how I overcame it. But yeah, so the story kind of starts when I was younger. I got tired of hearing, do you have McDonald's money? And I wanted to figure out how to make money without having to work as hard for it. My first introduction to money was entrepreneurship. I was a hair braider. My mom made a business for me. It was called Tame Your Mane Braids by Tremaine.
I love it.
Yeah. And so I learned quickly how to make money, but I was spending it as soon as I
Mhm.
made it.
Absolutely.
And I started to get like back pain, and I'm like, I am 17. Why does my
Mm.
back hurt like this? And it was in that moment I was like, I have to figure out how to not work so hard for money.
Yes.
So I went to school for business, with a concentration in finance and economics, and I'm like, I need to know how money works.
And why did you go to school? Was that just part of the journey being a young person? Let me get a degree, or was it very purposeful or mixture? Just curious that jump.
So, to be honest, I didn't think I was going to school until I had got accepted. Even
Okay.
though it had always been like instilled in me that college is the answer, college is the answer. Neither of my parents graduated from college. And
Mm.
so both of them were very much like, you got to go.
Mm.
Right. And I was able to go on a full ride to Hampton University. So
Nice.
that was a blessing.
Yes.
But there also was this pressure that being the first and, don't lose that scholarship,
That's
right?
right.
Because there was no going back
That's
if
right.
there was no scholarship. And so I think like coupled with the desire to know how money works,
Mm.
the desire to be successful and come out of the circumstance to stand on the shoulders of my parents who made all these sacrifices. All of that kind of melded into this idea of like, I'm going to figure out how money works. And then when I get good at it, I'm going to teach other people so
Mm.
that all these other people don't have to stress about it. And
I
so
love
there's
it.
kind of like this deep pay it forwardness
Mhm.
to the work that I do, where yes, it's about building wealth, but also there has been a lot of sacrifice poured into getting me to this place. And I'm
Mm.
very aware of the privilege I have. Even though, there's lots of privileges I don't have, I am not short on support. And I
That's
know that,
beautiful.
right? So a lot of this is pouring back into the community and other people everything that has been given to me. So I don't even know if I'm still answering the question now. Look what
You
you
are
done
answering
did,
the question.
Ramon.
It's beautiful. I want the tears about to flow, and the music is raising up. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so then when did you college and all those things? When did you start to do the business of what you're doing now? Did you work anywhere else? Or give me that journey. Then you got the education, the formal papers and education. Then talk me to that journey of when you began to open up the shop to do no more hair braiding. I mean, maybe you do it in the side, but no more hair braiding, but
No more hair braiding.
financial planning. Talk to me about
Yeah.
that.
So right after college, I went to
Mhm.
go work for a large firm that does investment advice.
Okay.
And I went through one of those training programs that,
Mhm.
you come out of college with a degree and they're like, hey, you got a degree, fast track, like go make us money,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
And I started to go make them money and I was really, really good at it.
Okay.
But I hated it. It was so much like widget based and hit these metrics. There was no relationship building. And I come from a family that does a lot of community service,
Mm.
that like I got more cousins and aunties
Yeah.
than like, yeah, right. And so to be in a role where I wasn't in a position to develop relationships,
Mm.
even though the money was good, it felt very empty. So I only stayed there long enough to learn what I needed to learn. And then I left. And I was like, I'm going to take what I've learned. I'm going to build my own thing and teach people everything that's not being taught in our communities so that we can not only have the support and the relationships, we can also have the wealth building tools to improve our communities.
Mm.
So that's kind of how it all came together.
I
And
love it.
I left that employer. It's been, oh my goodness, almost 10 years now.
Wow. Congratulations. That's
um,
wow.
yeah. So Um, and in the beginning, it was almost this, I had this entitlement where I expected people to show up because like I'm back home,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
teaching, y'all come out, learn the things, and nobody was coming to my events.
Right. Okay.
It's free. I'm feeding you. Why aren't you
Right.
here? Right?
Mm.
But I hadn't earned my stripes yet. So now, of course, when I host things, people are showing up, but I had to remove some of that entitlement and get back
Mm.
to the core of why I was doing it, where the reality is the point is to teach, to empower, to make sure people know what they need to know, and not so much you need to be out here because I said so.
Right.
It's because what can happen when you learn the information and how it can change not only your life, but everybody you're connected to. So
Love it. No, thank you. What were some of the first year, 1 to 3 years? Let's talk about the business of the business. How did you get your first client? What was that like? I noticed you mentioned events and things. Was that the main way? Just educating, fill a room and convert? Just going back to business lingo, or talk to us about those first few years. How did you start to build it and get clientele?
the first few years were hard.
Okay.
One, I was very young. So I was still in my early 20s. And when you talk about a 20-year-old at an independent business managing your money, people look at you crazy.
Right.
Right. It wasn't until I kept showing up that people were like, oh, she's serious. Right. And then it became an easier conversation to convert, where I would teach. I'd say, hey, this is how you can take the next step with me. And people would take the next step. But a lot of the conversion has come from education. And I think that's because already in the financial services space, there's a lot of mistrust. And so, one, we don't want to just talk to anybody about our money. And then two, we have to make sure that whoever we're talking to, they know what they're talking about. So me teaching and educating helped remove some of the walls that people had around their finances. And then two, help build trust, because I'm willing to teach you enough so that you know what we're talking about, to be able to feel confident to take the next step with me. And so till this day, that's still a lot of how my business grows. Is I love teaching about personal finance, because not only am I able to help my clients, I can also reach folks who may not have the money yet to work with a professional. At least you can get professional grade advice at a large scale.
Sure. I love it. And then how does a financial advisor make their money? I understand a hair braider. I need my hair braided. I pay you $1, you braid my hair. I need gas. Give you $1, you give me gas. And I suspect, again, just knowing it, interest or things like this. But let me just ask you, how does a financial advisor, you or whatever, make your money? What are your revenue streams for your business, so people understand?
Yeah, so there's a couple different revenue streams in my business. And this is a great question, Ramon. Every time you work with an advisor, you want to ask them how they get paid, because there are some instances in which advice that is given could be biased. Fair because enough. They might be paid a particular way based on the product you purchase. So I'll share how I get paid. Okay. Primarily, how I am paid is through a flat fee for giving advice. So I create a comprehensive strategy for a client. They pay me for my knowledge of the comprehensive strategy, right? Whether they decide to implement or purchase anything that I put in that strategy is all up to them. I am getting compensated for my knowledge, which is the way I prefer to be compensated, because it removes most of the bias.
Sure.
Other ways that I am compensated are through products. So if a client needs an insurance product where they say, hey, I need a life insurance policy, I want to be covered for 30 years. Can you help me find the cheapest thing that'll do what I need to do? Then I'm compensated by the insurance company for whatever life insurance vehicle, right? Another way that I'm compensated is through managing investment portfolios. So we talked about it a little bit earlier, where you can put money into an ETF or a mutual fund. I do that for clients. And when that happens, I charge a management fee. I do it so they don't have to, so they pay me a fee of taking that over for them. It's a percentage of the assets that I manage. So those are the three ways that I'm paid. And not all clients need all of those things, but every client that comes through does pay me the advisory fee for me to create their plan for them.
Got it. So you, that person, like in the movies, the billionaire calls you and you have the fancy car, the heels, and a briefcase, and like he just goes like this, and like you say, okay, they receive the money like that. You don't have to answer that question. You can tell I watch way too many movies, but that's my goal. I want to do that once. I want to be to that level, where like, I don't touch the checking account. I don't even touch the money. It's just like, oh, you need 5 million. Tremaine, can you give him 5 million? Can you give him 5 million, please? Something like that. We'll see. Maybe
that's not what my clients are doing, but there is a space for that. Typically, if you have a larger, a higher net worth, hundreds of millions of dollars, you have a whole money team around you.
Got it.
Where you have a personal banker that moves money for you.
Got it.
That's not what I do. But if you say, hey, Tremaine, I want to buy shares of AMC because Beyonce is about to shut down these movie theaters, I do make that purchase for you.
I love it. So Mark Cuban's not going to an ATM machine. He has people to do it for him.
That's right.
I love it. Tremaine, what else haven't I asked you that we should cover today? We talked a bit, and I think right at the top, this rich framework: reimagine, identify, create the plan, and honor what you're planning to do, which I got from you. This is, again, Tremaine Wills' outline is so important. Love hearing about your journey to where you got. What else haven't I asked you that's important for the Rundown with Ramon audience to know?
Oh,
if you like, if there's anything, there may not be, but anything that was on your mind, you're like, oh, I wish you would ask me this. And if not, it's all good. No problem. I always just like to leave that space for guests in case they have other things they want to bring out.
I think the last piece is thinking about mindset, right? So my company is called Mind Over Money. And I came up with this when I was standing in a friend's kitchen, just thinking about how we really have the power to change our financial situations when we control our mindset. And so at the time when I thought of it, the business was not born yet, but the desire to have a different financial outlook and to impact my family was like deep in my core. But I knew that it would require a mindset shift for myself because I had to overcome a lot of financial trauma and just misconceptions about wealth and the characteristics of people who are wealthy, right? And so if you grew up like me, you might have heard like money is the root of all evil. And, you know, there are these assumptions that if you are wealthy, you're a bad person. And I had to undo a lot of that negative thinking because money itself has no characteristics. And so when I stopped believing that people who were wealthy were negative or bad or evil, then I could start to become wealthy myself. Because if subconsciously you fundamentally disagree with any goal you have in place, you'll self-sabotage and undo any work towards it. So sometimes, even though we know the things to do, like I was formally trained as an advisor, I knew the things to do, but because I didn't believe that I should be the person that had wealth, I would mess up every time I would start to accumulate money. And so a lot of the conversations they need to be deeper than, you know, what are the tactics? Sometimes we have to tap into our core of what are the thoughts we have around money and change that so that we can change our finances in a more holistic way. So yeah, if you haven't addressed, you know, some of the things that are not true about money that you believe, that may be a place that you need to start, especially if you are already making higher income, but you still can't seem to accumulate wealth. There might be something you think about money that is blocking you from being able to retain it.
I love it. That is powerful. You may have answered this question I'm going to ask you right now already in what you just said. So feel free to say, Ramon, I just answered it. No problem. But you're sitting, you're in my office right now, and there's 2-3 women here. Whatever scenario you want to give them, they're looking at you. They're like, you know what? Our husbands are making money. We're staying at home, or we're working in a corporate. We're making our own money. Whatever scenario, they're just all 3 amazing women here. What's your message to them? Because your stated goal, I want to reach 1 million women to have, what's that cool thing you said again? Invested assets. Yes, invested assets. Here you go. See, I'm learning too, people. Invested assets. What are you going to tell to the ladies who are watching you right now? What would you tell those ladies?
I probably would ask a question.
Okay.
About retirement. And not just their own, but also when can their husband stop working, right? Because as I've been encountering more men and I've asked, when do you want to retire? A lot of them say, I don't know, or I don't know what I would do if I stopped working. And I think part of it is men are conditioned to be breadwinners and to provide. But what happens when that job is done, right? And if you are a woman making money, what happens when that job is done and you've made all the money you need to make? What's the finish line, or when do you get to enjoy the fruit of your labor? And what does that look like, right? How can you plan for that next chapter so that you don't have to be defined by the type of work that you do. So that's probably going to be my question for especially women making money is when
Mhm.
can you retire? And for women whose husbands are working, when can your husband retire so that you can spend more time together?
I love it. Again, one more time, Tremaine, you know what I'm going to ask you. Tell us your full name, how we can reach you, who you serve one more time. It's been so great having you on the Rundown with Ramon.
Yeah, again, my name is Tremaine Wills. You can find me everywhere at Tremaine Wills. My website is www.mindovermoney.net. We are on a mission to help 1 million women and their families grow their invested assets to $1 million or more. If you're an ambitious woman that wants to grow her invested assets, you can connect with us there.
I love it. Again, this is Ramon Ray on the Rundown with Ramon, featured on Black Enterprise's zoneofgenius.com. You can get to know me better at RamonRay.com, or you can DM me across platforms, email me. You can find me anywhere you want. Just look up Ramon Ray. Again, it's been a pleasure being with Tremaine Wills as well.